You're on the Bible Forum. I'm Warren Sprouse. I don't know where you live, but do you know anything about our southern border? You know what's going on down there? JudicialWatch.org did a piece on it this week. You've seen it on the news, no doubt. But the statistic is that arrests at the border have dropped by 60% since February. Republican Representative John Katko, ranking member of the House of Homeland Security Committee, said Monday during a trip to the southern border that U.S. Border Patrol have apprehended individuals who were on the terrorist watch list. That discovery is very troubling to Border Patrols and Homeland Security, as it ought to be troubling to you and to our leaders. Individuals that they have on the watch list for terrorism are now starting to exploit our southern border. We need to wake up, he said. We need to understand. McCarthy said some border agents told him they've encountered individuals from the Middle East attempting to cross into the U.S. illegally. They're from Central America, Iran, Yemen, Sri Lanka. When I walk through the facility, he says, there's more Haitians than any other nationality. And while I was there, they were coming through on a regular basis. We asked the border agents, and they were shocked themselves. Their answer is because they're being released into the country. The group of GOP lawmakers said President Biden's executive actions that rolled back many Trump-era immigration policies have resulted in a more dangerous situation at the border. Now keep in mind, that's not just at the gate at the border. That's at the private property, people ranching, living in areas that are near the border that don't have a fence, or don't have a fence that's being guarded. You've seen pictures of these kids climbing right over that fence. Of course they can. It's dangerous. They could kill. But we don't have patrol like we did before. President Biden has ended former President Trump's Remain in Mexico policy that required asylum seekers encountered at the border to wait for their court hearings over there. A total of 25,000 migrants are being transferred in phases into the U.S. after Biden's elimination of the Stay in Mexico policy. Biden has also restored the Obama-era catch and release policy. People come in, they don't see any reason why to hold them, they can go about their business, and as long as you report properly and do all the paperwork, and we'll go catch you down the road someplace, it'll all work out. I stopped believing that in third grade. Department of Homeland Security considers people from terrorist nations to be a top priority. They're one of the top threats to the United States, according to a congressional report made public this month. In Laredo, Texas alone, there was an astounding 300% increase in immigrants from Bangladesh, a South Asian Islamic country, well known as a recruiting ground for terrorist groups such as ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and the Al-Qaeda Indian subcontinent, AQIS. Congressional investigators found that the number of special interest aliens flowing north via Latin America have increased tremendously in the last few years thanks to established transitional criminal organizations that facilitate travel along drug and migrant smuggling routes. On a recent committee staff delegation trip to Latin America, Panamanian officials communicated to committee staff that tens of thousands of these SIAs have entered Panama since 2014. Colombian officials communicated similar numbers to committee staff, stating that hundreds of SIAs have entered Colombia each year for the past few years. In both countries, nearly all the SIA migrants were headed to the United States and originated from the Middle East, Asia, and Africa, including Syria, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Somalia, Bangladesh, India, Eritrea, and many others. Additionally, encounters with these special interest individuals resulted in the seizure of tens of thousands of fraudulent documents, including passports and visas, that facilitated travel from their countries of origin through the Americas. Designated as a foreign terrorist organization by the State Department, Hezbollah has been operating in Latin America since the early 1990s when it worked with Iran to carry out the 1994 bombing of a Jewish community center in Argentina. The House investigation found that as of February 2018, a record 630 Bangladeshi nationals have been arrested trying to enter the U.S. illegally in Laredo, Texas alone. That marks a 300% increase from the previous year. The routes facilitating the illicit travel of these Bangladeshis are mostly controlled by TCOs and drug cartels, which charge tens of thousands of dollars to smuggle SIAs and other migrants across the U.S. border. What does it all mean? It means we have folks in national leadership who are willing to sacrifice American values, American property, American lives for political gain. Folks able to get into the U.S. this easy and in these numbers will no doubt vote Democrat, if they vote at all. All we need to do is look at the Democrat-run cities to see how Democrat leadership feels about their supporters. Democrat-run cities, with very few exceptions, are cities with the most crime, the most squalor, the most dependent citizens. Democrats care only how you vote, not if you succeed. And that's not new.